Cecilia Yeboah, and I'm from Ghana.
I'm William Gibson, and I'm proud to be a Liberian.
Salut, je m'appelle Narli Sao et je viens des Démocraties République du Congo.
Growing up in an African household, you catch on quickly that it's not like most households, especially growing up in America. So, coming from an African background, a lot of the things that my friends could do, like for example, going out with their friends or going to certain things without having like a curfew placed on them per se, was one of the things that showed that we came from different backgrounds. Like I couldn't go anywhere with my friends unless I asked my parents and unless my parents knew their parents. So if you're not African, I really wasn't allowed to go out with you anywhere if my parent did not know your parent. So it was really strict growing up, and I really didn't have a lot of freedoms as most kids would, because Africans are very overprotective, especially my dad. Coming here at the age of 4, and just me and my dad really made sure that I was in a way guarded about certain things, and he really made sure that I didn't really know what was going on in the world. He was one of those people where it's like if he saw something bad on the news, he would think automatically, oh, it's going to be bad if you go somewhere without me knowing, or if you go somewhere anyway and I do know it's going to be bad. So he was just one of those people that was like always worried about the negatives, and he really made sure that I was like sheltered in a way when it came to growing up in an African household. But now he's more so a little bit more relaxed when it comes to my younger siblings, because like one thing he's really caught on to is no matter what you try to do, like trying to protect your child from everything you really can. So he's trying to give my younger siblings a little bit more freedom. But growing up, I didn't have a lot of freedoms growing up in an African household.
Well, for starters, I was born in Africa. We migrated to the United States when I was 10, not 11, 10. Growing up in an African household, oh my gosh, strict. Everything is strict. I would definitely say your parents are tough on you. Education is a very big thing. It's very, very, very enforced. Discipline is a big thing. Respect is a huge thing. You will have respect for anybody that you come across. Respect is something that's very enforced, heavily enforced in a African household. Growing up in an African household, you're taught we're not allowed to call people by their names, by their first name. We're not allowed to address adults, or even like someone can be 2 years older than you, a year older than you, and you're not allowed to address them by their first name. You have to put a, kind of like how in the U.S. everything, there's a title, Miss, Mrs., Mr., Professor, Doctor. So in Africa, well, in Congo, someone that's older than you, you have to put ya in front of it. That's when you put that ya in front of their name, that actually, shows that they're older than you and that you're showing them respect. Older people, older women is either auntie or mama, mom. You never address anyone by their names. It's very, unless you guys are the same age or they're younger than you, but otherwise, we're not on the first name basis, just for respect.
Came here in 2005 again, so I was 9. So growing up, I went to Florence Elementary in 4th grade. And of course, people say like, do you guys have phones? Do you guys have houses? Like just questions that are beyond reach. But of course, that's what they see on TV, on television. They see that you people live in huts, don't have phones, don't have electricity. They don't know how to go out. They probably don't have shopping centers, which is terribly a lie, completely a lie. So yeah, definitely getting those type of questions, and very, very weird questions that you know the answer to, but that's what they've been exposed to. So growing up now, I can't really be upset. But yes, the African booty scratcher, African, everybody, oh my God, you don't look African. Wow, really, you're African? So those are the media.
Okay. Obviously, Africans in the media are portrayed as poor. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, third Africa itself, is a continent that people consider to be very poor, which is very much, I don't know, I would definitely say it's wrong, because there's so many minerals and resources, and there's so much in Africa. Like in Congo we have coltan, which makes iPhones. In Congo we have diamonds, which is everybody's jewelry. In Congo we have gold. It's just so much copper. It's just so much richness there that people don't see, and a lot of people assume that we live in huts. I'm pretty sure that's something big, is that a lot of Africans live in huts, or if not huts, we live in like villages and things like that. And on the contrary, Africa is actually a place where you're able to afford a nice lifestyle. Believe it or not, growing up, we always had housemaids. I can't say that we didn't have housemaids. Like, there were housemaids, you know what I mean? There were people to set the table, to take things off the table when you're done. You had people to wash your clothes. Like, it's like I had people to make, to take care of me, to drive me to school. Things like that that's the part of Africa that people don't show, that the media doesn't show. I think the media does a really good job at portraying Africa as a jungle, portraying Africans as like similar to animals in the jungle. Play with lions, play with cheetahs, play with monkeys. I've never had a pet monkey. I've never even gotten close to a cheetah or a lion or even a monkey for that matter. But I mean, according to the media, monkeys and cheetahs and lions are in our backyard. So
growing up from elementary up until high school, I really did not feel comfortable telling people I was African, because you instantly get the questions of, oh, how was it in Africa? Did you live in a hut? Do y'all do certain things differently? Like, do you drive a car? Just like the most idiotic questions that you would never really hear people ask. And it really took a lot for me to understand that it was just ignorance. They didn't know better, so that's why they asked it. Even my teachers in high school, you would think educated people who went to college would know what, the continent of Africa had to offer. They didn't really understand that, and they asked me a lot of those questions. And coming into high school, I took a trip back to Liberia in 2012, and I saw my great-grandmother, and she reminded me to never forget where I come from. And because of that conversation I had with her before she passed away, I understood the importance of me owning my heritage, regardless of what people will probably ask me or say. So coming back to America, getting into high school, I started to own more of who I was, and not really trying to diminish that African side of me, that Liberian side. And now I feel perfectly fine telling people, as long as they're able to listen and basically taking what I'm saying about Liberia or any country in Africa, so they don't come off as if they're ignorant or they just are, not really interested in knowing what Africa has to offer.
So do you think the ignorance comes from like this false, what the media shows us what Africa is? Do you think the media is a big part of that?
Most definitely. When you look on the television screen, and that's one thing I really don't blame a lot of people for, because if you look on the television screen, even up until now, you'll see that with just $1 a day, you can feed this African child. You see the child that's emaciated, their stomach poking out, and you're saying with just $1 a day, we can feed this African child this, that, and the third. So when you see those images on your television screen, when you look up, things on the internet, you automatically see it. On your television screen, on your computers, you start to think in that way that Africa has nothing to offer, that all Africans are suffering, all Africans want a handout, when that's not really the case. So I mean, the media plays a huge role, and until the media starts to really change how Africa is viewed, people will not really understand that unless they go ahead and do their own research.
Just being candid, I would say that I've heard some Africans saying some people are not as hardworking or have that much ambition, because you see Africans coming here and they just work so hard because they want to build that foundation for everybody coming behind them. So I would say that, and also just mannerisms also. I've noticed that with some people have really great mannerisms, some people don't. They walk in the room, they don't speak. Things of that sort just does not happen. Like, referring back to growing up in an African home, if you come somewhere, you have to speak. You don't walk in and not speak to anybody. Hello, ma'am. How are you, sir? You know, just normal things that people completely disregard.
Liberia I stayed in Liberia till the age of 4, and then I came to America. So growing up in Liberia, we had a lot of wars. Like when I was born in '97, I was born into war. My mother literally had me, her water broke, and she had to run to the hospital in the middle of gunfire. Like, you know, they had to take her, put her in the car, and she had to drive to a Swedish relief hospital, which at the time was called the Swedish Relief Hospital in Liberia. Because of the war, we didn't really have a health system. So my mother, by the grace of God, got to the Swedish Relief Hospital, and they were able to basically have me be, you know, born safely. And that was something that, you know, took place. And growing up in Liberia, of course, like from '97 up until 2003, it was just a lot of wars. Like I remember many nights where my family and I, my immediate family, we had to basically like stay up and just like really like make sure everybody was protected. So like one thing that I remember from Liberia during the war, we stayed in the capital city, and the moment we heard gunshots, we had like a 2-story home. So we left the top of the building and we started running down to like the ground floor to basically get into shelter and stay there for a couple days until we had the clear go ahead to go ahead and basically go to the U.S. Embassy for us to have some refuge. But growing up in Liberia, I really don't remember. It's like bits and pieces. But it's like a lot of things that if I talk about it or if somebody else talks about it in my family, I'll start to remember it. But growing up in Liberia in the war-based country where there's like a lot of wars going on because of tribal issues and, you know, people playing the tribal card, we had a lot of issues, and that's what led to the turmoil that lasted 15 years. And growing up as a child of a Civil War product, was just like really different because you really didn't know that other people out there didn't know you were suffering, and it's just so much different. Coming to America, seeing how everything is, it was like a culture shock. Like I didn't have to worry about, you know, hearing gunshots at night. I didn't have to worry about a bomb taking place. Like I remember one thing that really scared me when I was 5 years old, living in Charlotte. It was thunderstorming really hard, and I heard like the thunder, and automatically I decided to jump down off the couch and act as if I heard a gunshot. Like I automatically thought about, you know, covering my head and ducking for cover as if like, you know, a gunshot had taken place or something like that. So it was just totally different seeing like the contrast from leaving a country that was like really like rifled by war and then coming to America and seeing such a peaceful nation where I didn't have to worry about those things. So it's really different. Was a positive and a negative. The reason I say that is because it was like cultural appropriation. If you look at it, where in a way, when you come to basically talking about Black Panther and how it's culturally appropriated in the African American community, and we can also say that for the white community as well. It's like cultural appropriation. We're just as bad as them. So when we talk about Africa, we don't really, you know, talk about everything. We're like, oh, I'm proud to be African. I'll wear the tribal prints. I'll wear the kente cloths, and, you know, say that I'm African just for a day or for a week, and that's it. But you don't really take the true time to like really understand what Africa has to offer to change that, you know, negative connotation that's around Africa. Until you take that time to really do research and all about what Africa has to offer, I can't really take you seriously when you come to me and say, oh, you know, Wakanda forever, or I'm Black and I'm proud, or I'm proud to be African, because you weren't saying that in high school or in middle school, but you're saying it now because you have a movie that is basically showing the positives of Africa. But until you really do your research and show that you're interested in learning more about what Africa has to offer, I can't take you seriously.
I mean, I think it's cool that people are coming out wearing their kente and all their attire that they've been made, but it kind of bothers me a little bit that years back people would say like, oh, I don't really like that material, or what is that? But all of a sudden, you know, it's a trend. I think everything's a trend. I think it's great that people are embracing where they're from, their culture. I don't see anything wrong with it. Come out with your kente, your anchor, or whatever you want to do. But for the people that disregarded it earlier and said they don't really like it, what are you wearing? And then all of a sudden it becomes a trend, that's a little bit of a problem.
Black Panther is something it's actually a really good movie. I embrace the I guess I can say the hype that it's brought on. It's definitely brought on this energy of unity, I can say, of oneness in the African American and African community. A lot of African people felt, you know, this distance between us and African Americans, and for a long time it's almost as if we were trying to push our culture onto African Americans by, you know, maybe telling them that, hey, you know, your ancestors came from Africa. You know, a lot of people don't take that well, because a lot of people, when they're thinking of Africa and when you say that to them, they think that you're diminishing them. They think that, you know, you're trying to belittle them or something like that. And I think that Black Panther displayed a different aspect of Africa. It displayed Africa in a more beautiful way, in a way that's more appreciating. You know what I mean? So I think that made the African Americans that weren't so knowledgeable about Africa become more knowledgeable about Africa, and I think that it made them embrace it more. I do think, however, it has also brought on a tad bit of fakeness. Salut, je m'appelle Nariv Style et je viens des Démocratique République du Congo.
Okay, I'm Cecilia Yeboah and I'm from Ghana.
I'm William Gibson and I'm proud to be a Liberian.